Hey Isaac, you should make a video, man.
Do do ba 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 ship it bow.
This one's in the bag.
So here we are. I'm starting a thing. I'm starting a recording. So I kind of started off this recording with a vague idea of what I want to talk about, but I also didn't really have a really good idea of what I wanted to talk about. So I kind of figured I would just start it and then see where it goes, or where it went, rather, now that this is in the past, to see how well that kind of lived up to my expectation. So I've been wanting to make a video for a little bit, and I think what has really started me wanting to make a video this time around was I had watched Star's video that he released. I can't remember if it was at the beginning of this year or at the end of last year, but either time, those points in time are pretty close. And it was kind of it almost seemed like a kind of healing video for him, I guess. Because I guess it was kind of like, it seemed like it was really important for him to communicate how he was feeling, and why he did what he did, and how he felt like people were pressuring him. And that's only just a very small part of the video. The guy talked a lot about it. But one weird point in the video was when he was talking about what he felt like he had to do and what people felt like he had to do. He was talking about how he felt like he could be successful at anything. He just chose to start out with TF2 videos, and if anybody wanted to do it, they really just could. And I kind of had that thought of like, oh, I make videos sometimes, and I like TF2, and I've been playing it again recently, so I'm like, I kind of want to make a video that's something about TF2. I didn't really think that I had any content to add to the game, though, or really any commentary to do on it, and I also don't think I'm very good at just doing live commentary on things. Especially when I'm watching movies, I think I can make good comments on it, but it's normally 5 and 10 minutes in between of me just staring the thing down. So that seemed like a rather poor decision to make there. So then what I started thinking about was maybe books that I've read recently, wanting to talk about them and things and stuff like that. But I mean, I have a hard time talking to my wife about the books that I read, not because she's not interested. I just do a bad job of talking about them in general. And maybe if I read the book in a way where I was taking notes and I was intending to talk about it, I could maybe do a good video on that. But that's not really how I'm enjoying reading right now. And if I'm enjoying doing it, I really shouldn't make changes to it so that I can produce something from it. That might not be the healthiest thing to do. But I have been journaling a lot recently. It has slowed down now that more people are living with me now, just because more of my time is spent managing and I guess just enjoying the people in my life. But one thing that has come from journaling that I wasn't really expecting is that I do poetry a lot more. And I was kind of thinking about maybe reading one of my poems and kind of talking about my thought process with it. The thing is, for the poems that I've done in the past that I'm really happy with, I've kind of already done that. And I'm also not really interested in just rehashing a conversation that I've had with it in the past. That wouldn't really interest me very much at all. There was a poem that I was working on recently, which I did write, but I'm not too terribly happy with it. So I guess maybe I'll just start with talking. I still want to talk about it though, because I think that it does reflect a little bit where I'm at in my life right now, and also maybe maybe it's just a way to enjoy it more than also just to be able to reflect upon it. Maybe I'll get a better poem. Well, I think I definitely will. The question will just be well, again, and this is why this video is going this way, it's going to be a creative process myself as well, figuring out how to make this poem better. So I guess to start off with the reason why I started with the poem in the first place and the inception for the idea of the poem, now that I've covered the idea for the video, is that I was watching a YouTube video with my wife, and the guy was talking about how racism was reflected in the Ip Man 4 movie versus the Ip Man 2 movie. And he was making a point about what the racist would look like and how the racism was portrayed. And overall, I think it was actually a pretty good movie. Let's see, it was Accented Cinema. Yes, that was the YouTuber, because it is actually, I think he is Chinese. I think he's Chinese. And so he has an accent and he's in cinema. So that's where it comes from. But anyways, overall it was a pretty good video. I think I would be willing to recommend it. But one line that he said in the movie just struck out to me when he was talking about when somebody was being racist to Ip Man in the movie, and he was talking about the temptation of hate, and those 3 words just really stuck with me in a way, and it felt like I wanted to write something that really helped to bring like imagery of what it meant to have the temptation of hate, because it didn't seem like empty words to me. It seemed like there was stuff there, and I thought it would maybe really be a good thing to just dig deeper into. So after sitting on it for a couple of days, I took some notes on it. So the first one I wrote was just the temptation of hate, because I wanted to make sure I didn't forget the line. And then the next one is fire, hot and cold. Now, I wrote fire because I wanted to kind of capture something that was consuming, and then I did hot and cold because I think that hate can be something that's both passionate and dispassionate. I think that we most typically associate it when it's passionate, but it can take a form where it's dispassionate because somebody just refuses to associate with something. They refuses to be connected with something because of how much they want to distance themselves from it. So I wanted to reflect that. And I did that which comes for us all. That was, I think I'm being a little flowery with my language here when I say that which comes for us all. Really all that I'm trying to reflect is just that it's almost global in a sense. I feel like just when it comes to hating people, man, we really all got it, don't we? It is unfortunate, but it's there. And then I wrote down words that kind of captured that for me, which was consuming, ravaging, and aggressive. I think that hate is all of these things. I kind of wanted to reflect that. And then I did from the perspective of a survivor. And what I mean by survivor is I wanted to have somebody who had felt the emotion of hate before and was kind of looking back on their actions. I didn't want this to be from the perspective of somebody who had never been tempted before and this was their first time being tempted. I think that would be a very hard place to put my mind in, and I don't think I could do a good job of it. But I think it'd be easier and more educational to come from a perspective of somebody who has survived something again and is like trying to ask themselves why they would put up with it again. And then I had ended it with this isn't new information from the previous notes I was writing. It was kind of more just like summarized and can you say succinctized? Made more succinct, which is a poem written by someone looking at a campfire, which kind of gets that fire and survivor stuff in it. Now again, I don't actually think this poem is very good. I wrote it and I wasn't very happy with it, and so I am recording this first. So what I'm probably going to do is I'm going to just put up the lyrics on the screen over the video of, I'm probably going to do me playing TF2, so this video that has been playing for 8 minutes of me playing TF2, I'm going to put the words up over the screen, and this is a good video because I'm telling you what I'm going to do instead of just doing it. But I guess that's one way I'm going to do, and so I guess as you can just see now on the screens, and for my wife and my twin brother who has seen my poetry before, these sentences are a little bit longer than I normally do, and I don't quite have a good pattern for them. I normally try and couplet my sentences with ideas, and so there was one poem that I had written previously that I called Tiny Dancer, and I would do sets of lines in 4, where the first 2 would be just observations about the past from the writer. Then the third line would be some conclusion that the writer took from those past. Then the fourth line would be how he now realizes he was wrong in that conclusion. But that is just not represented here. And I think that the reason for that is because of I didn't do my notes I did my notes poorly. I didn't do a good job of communicating anything in structure. And so then that means that when I was writing it, I then was spending more time trying to convey the meaning from my notes than meaning how I would typically convey it. So I think that if I were to write this again and make it better, I might move some of these around. I might add some lines in it. I think that this would be a poem that might be made better by being longer. But before I get too long, I'm just going to read this so that I can then maybe get it off of the screen. So this poem, written by me, called The Temptation of Hate. As I look at the fire in front of me, I must ask what draws me to its flame. I feel cold without the fire, but I am unsure of my ability to keep it controlled. The kindling was whatever feelings of hurt I could scrounge from my past and present. These feelings, they burn so easily, and the heat for my passion, it keeps me warm. To be honest, I don't know what would happen if I let go of my hurt. Those who have come before me and who are with me now refused to let theirs die out. Would I keep my memories if I didn't light them on fire with zeal and resentment? These memories are who I am and what defines me. To be anything else would be cold. I would die without the warmth. I think that might be the fire talking, though. So, yeah, I'm not able to convey meaning through structure as I have in the past, which is something that I would like to add to it, just because I think that's just how I convey meaning. I think it's a way that I have to work on and something that I have to improve on, but I just know that when I've written in the past, it was something that I looked at and I felt satisfaction that I have done. And so maybe I have communicated meaning here, and I think that it's okay. I just don't think it's something that I'm very happy about. I do think that it maybe does a better job of flowing. As I read it, I don't feel like I'm stumbling over my words too much, and it is a little bit more of like a short story than it is a poem, I guess. A very short story. So I think that part of that, I think, is successful. And it is at this point that I realize that I'm probably just going to keep up the lyrics for this thing the whole time. I'll just shrink them a little bit. Maybe not. I don't know. It's still a bad thing that I'm talking about what I'm going to do for this video as I'm doing it, but that's okay. Do I have anything to add about this poem? Would I would improve it by adding more structure to it? Now, I'm making a video about this poem. It's okay for me to be specific about what I would change about it. So, one thing would be my sentences, some of them start with T's and some of them start with I's, and I've got this weird one with a W and an A. So I would maybe try and get everything to start with either a T or an I, like alternate between them, so that maybe then it has an easier rhythmic flow as you're reading it. And then I think I used the word "and" too much in this poem. I need to be more creative with how I link those ideas. I can do better than that. That's something that I feel. And then the last three lines, to be anything else would be cold. I would die without the warmth. I think that might be the fire talking, though. I think that last line is weak. It kind of just barely etches out the meaning that the fire, it's the fire that's keeping you close to the fire. You don't have to be by the fire to be alive. As I was writing it, I really felt like I was running out of space to write it, and that'd be one thing I would want to make longer. But as I've gotten down here to the end of the poem and the lines are getting shorter, it's hard for me to then communicate a large idea there. I need to communicate it in pretty small words, pretty simply. And so that was the best I could do. So what I probably need to do to fix that is I need to make the poem longer, and I need to stretch ideas in better earlier on, so that then I can be more effective with using simpler words to call back to those more complex ideas. Because ultimately the big words I use here are cold, warmth, and fire, and talking. The talking is a pretty powerful word there. But the cold, warmth, and fire, I think they do a really bad job of conveying, just looking at those last 3 lines and those 3 key words in those lines, it does a bad job of communicating what was in my notes. Which I think just means I did a bad job of communicating meaning. As an example, let me scroll through my notes here. So these are the last 2 lines of a poem that I wrote while watching Free Solo. I wrote the poem about the guy because he just is, dude's a monster, and like all the positive and negative ways that come with it, he is in really some ways he is as human as we can be and not human. And he's really cool and he does really cool things, but then also in other ways he's very not me. So I wrote a poem about what it means for him to achieve excellence. And so the last 2 lines of it are, I dream to die falling from the highest height. Anything else would be the second death first. See, even then you don't even have to know the rest of the poem. Those 2 lines just convey a lot of meaning, I think. And then the last 3 lines of my most recent poem, to be anything else would be cold. Well, hey, look at that. We can see the similarities in my writing already. Am I right? I would die without the warmth. And I think that might be the fire talking, though. So it conveys something, but it's not nearly as efficient as I want it to be. And I guess maybe that would be I guess that would really be it for the feedback that I have on this poem. I'm sorry, poem. I wrote you and I have now made a video talking about how I don't like you. If you were my kid, I would be considered a bad parent. Well, I guess the last thing that I can comment on that is unrelated specifically to this one poem, but rather to, I guess you could call what I've written in this journal as a work of poems, is I think that I do visit the idea of dying, and what it means to choose our own death. Because I think that I'm writing something, so I want to communicate value of some kind. I want to communicate ideas, and I think that very few people want to die, because the people that want to die is always a shrinking number. If that's something that they truly want, then they execute on it, and thus the number of people that want that is smaller. So most of us are living lives that we have some type of meaning or value that we're trying to squeeze from this life. On some level, we have a win condition that we fail when we die. But then we also have other conditions that are effectively dying even if we don't die. I think talking about the guy who's like rock climbing, like if he isn't challenging himself as much as he can, he has effectively died. He is not living a life he's happy with anymore. He doesn't want to live. Or there are people that live lives where, like, let's say they failed to take care of their family. For them, they have already died. They have failed in what truly matters. They're done. They are, in the words of Owen Johnson, I'm done. I am done. That's such a good song that he has. And so I think when I'm writing a poem and I'm trying to put myself in somebody's perspective, I think that's I think how I try and put myself in this fictional person's shoes, whether it's a real person who I have a fictional version of them in my head, or it's a fictional person who's only in my fictional head. It's to them, how is it that they're scared of dying? Because I think that that's what makes it like truly afraid. And it doesn't have to be a physical death. It can even be something like, for this thing, it might be like the death of a memory of, like, if whoever this is sitting by the fire, if they're not able to live the passion of these memories, if they even still have them, you know. Like, you have some friendships where you're still angry at them, and so you like remember them, and there were friends that you were like good friends with, but you don't think about them anymore, and you kind of like have a hard time forgetting about them, and you just lose them and they're gone. Like, is it better to lose them and have them be gone, or to keep them alive even if it's with still being angry at them and keeping that argument kindled? But ultimately, all this still points out to is the poem is called The Temptation of Hate, and this does a bad job of talking about the temptation of it and what draws us close to it. I think it helps us to talk about it, but I don't think it really conveys anything, I guess. I guess I mean when I say that it helped me to talk about it, I can make a 20-minute video off of it, and that's all good and well. But I couldn't read the poem to somebody I think would be happy about that. But who knows? We'll see what the next wrap of it is. Thank you for listening, and I think especially thank you for listening to the spiels of me just making any comments. Anyways, au revoir.